Inktober Tanglers. I'm Annie, and I'd like to welcome you to days 13 and 14 of Inktober Tangles. Day 13's tangle is Philoxy by Teresa Fessler, and 14 is Slide Hat by Karen Frank. Both are tangles new to me, and they are both very cool, and I can't wait to show you how I've combined the two. In the Zen-tangle world, when we do a whole tile in one tangle, or variation of it, we call that a monotangle. If we combine two tangles, we call that a tango, as if it were a dance. So here's my dance between Philoxy and Slide Hat. We will begin with these materials. Please note, I know it's a lot of materials here, and if you don't have color and you don't want to work in color, just use your black pen and your graphite pencil and your tortillon for shading. I like to give people options. So I have to admit, when I first started Zentangling, I think I was tangling probably for 3 years before I actually went into color with tangling, because I just think it's got a cool and classic look. But I've noticed that a lot of people like the color. So here I am going today to choose to draw my tangles in the brown pen from Sakura. I have 01 and 05 because the 05 is for filling in a large space. And I'm also going to use this, I just have this pretty pen. It's called Cobalt Green from Faber-Castell. And I haven't used it much, so I just really wanted to use it. And I think there's no more beautiful color combination than this turquoise and brown. I will be shading my turquoise with these two tone and tone pencils that you can take whatever colors you choose and just get a couple, one lighter and one darker, tone and tone of the color of your pen. And then for the brown, I'm going to shade with this color called Caput Mortuum, and it is also, this is a Faber-Castell colored pencil. I will be needing a white colored pencil and or a white General's charcoal if you have that. A tortillon is always handy to have, and then of course my Copic solvent blender. The solvent blender is not necessary. You can use your colorless blender pencil or a lighter color of the colors you're working in. I'm going to start with my little tile from Zen-tangle, my Bijou, and I'm going to get closer to you and take out my 01 Micron brown. And we're going to start actually with Slide Hat. Slide Hat is worked on a wavy line, very similar to the beginning wave of Waves, the tangle, or of my Eros actually is very similar. So I'm going to make what is basically Philoxy normally has a circle from which to begin our tangling. But we're going to, instead of doing a circle in the center, we're going to do this slide hat. So we're going to try to make it pretty small so that we have room for our other tangle, but not so small that we can't do our slide hat. So about like this. It looks actually very much like an amoeba, right? And then the slide hat goes like this. It's very fun. Here you see hills and valleys, right? The top of this is like a hill, come down and there's a valley and another hill. On all of the hills, we are going to do, we're just going to put a little hat on here. Looks like a little elf hat. I'm only going to do 3 consecutive rings or ored lines that get smaller and smaller as you build the hat. Very much like Zinger, if you know that tangle. I'm going to do the same thing on all of these little amoeba hills. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, and 3. And now we're going to concentrate on the valleys. So here's a little valley, so we're going to do the same thing. So it's going to be facing the inner part of our little amoeba. 1, 2, and 3. And you can do this in any shape with these waves. It doesn't have to be in a star shape. I just thought this worked really well. 1, 2, and 3. And then the final step is actually, if you'd look here, we have this arc. We're going to kind of join the two hats by making just an aura line of that final arc all the way around, first on this side, and then on the inside. It just kind of thickens up the line work, and it really makes it look like this beautiful undulating, almost like a sea urchin or a sea star. The way you would shade this, if you have just a graphite pencil, that's fine, would be where there's a dip down here. I'd like to go on one side just to get some transition. You could do both sides, but I'm just going to put my shading on one side. This little arm got a little bit small, but that doesn't matter. And I'm just going to blend that out a little bit. Oops, I had not cleaned my blender. Always clean your blender. Now you can see what the shading's doing a lot better this way. And so you can really see that undulation, those hills and valleys going up and down, right? And now we're going to do a well stroke. Well is a pattern by Headquarters. And I'm telling you right now, this is not going to be perfect because I am way off center here. I should have made it more in center, but this is Zentangle, and there's no reason not to continue on and just work with what I have. So I'm going to start like thinking of this as a circle about the top of my circle. I'm going to bow out and go into the corner like that. Halfway between, do the same thing. Always bowing into the corner. Turn your tile if it makes it easier. So this would be about the halfway point here, and I'm going to go into the corner. Like that. So you have something that kind of looks like an aperture on the camera, right? The opening. And then we're going to just make bananas, is what I'm saying. Start here at the point, arc out, and make a crescent, like a crescent or a banana. Tapering down. This is, of course, much easier to do on a large tile. So if you have a regular Zentangle tile, I would suggest it, but I need my tiles to fit into my little book, so they have to be small. There's the start of our Philoxy, the center with these rotating arms, almost like a pinwheel. And then we're going to take up our blue pen, or a different color pen, whatever you are working with, and we're going to start an arc and kind of just aura this line. And just keep doing that until you fill out the space. Sometimes I only get 3. You can make them bigger. You can make them smaller, however you feel like they should be. That one I kind of tapered in. You really should try to stay more of an aura line according to the step out. So we have kind of like a big, almost flower formed here. I like to go back in and weight my little corners just to give it some more character. See how much better that looks already? And now we're going to get back our brown pen out, and we're going to finish off our Philoxy by taking the tip of our spinning pinwheel, and we're going to arc over. I'm only going to arc over about that far. You can decide on your own how far over you want to go. And then we're going to make like another aura line here, and look what happens. It looks like this is a big ribbon kind of wrapping around that flower. So I do like to emphasize this line. And then again, just arced over here and making our ribbon. That's already so very pretty. You almost don't need shading. As long as you really kind of emphasize these lines to make it very clear what's going on. You can even weight some of these here. Set this off. Okay, so now I'm just going to have fun shading, and I'm going to shade. Let's do the blue first. Blue is always fun. I'm going to take my pencil that looks almost the same color as this blue here, and I'm going to just start filling in. I'm going to actually make it easy for you. Let's just fill in this whole thing. Let's do one section at a time. And then I would take my darker of the two pencils that are tone in tone, right? So here's the lighter pencil. Here's the darker one that's tone in tone. And this is where I'm going to actually shade. That means I'm going to get darker towards the bottom, towards that center. So the center will really like pop up. And then where these scallops meet, just to lift them a little bit, they would have a little bit of a drop shadow, wouldn't they? So I'm going to go ahead and shade that. And also a little bit on the top just to give that rounded, basically we're just re-emphasizing that corner weighted line. Okay, and as you can see, this is very, you can take your lighter pencil and go back over that to try to get it less grainy. But as you can see, there's still a lot of tooth showing on here, right? Let me see if I can get it really close up and show you what I mean. Do you see how there are little white spots in the paper showing through? That does not look finished to me. So this is where I take my solvent blender. First I'm going to clean it off. And then I'm just going to start flicking and blending and merging, it's called burnishing, these colors together. We want this transition to be less of a line and more of a blend. Clean, clean, clean. And that's not dark enough in there for me, so I'm going to get my dark pencil out again and just add another layer until I get the desired look. This tile, this paper, takes a lot of layering. It's very porous. Really can take a lot of color or watercolor or whatever you're using. And then I will blend that out again. I kind of flick. I don't like to dwell too long. You don't want to get the paper wet with your solvent. And then to really give it a highlight, we would take our white colored pencil, or if you have your General's charcoal, and then put some light on the outside here where it would be hit by sunlight or a light. And that's how I would shade each of those sections. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can watch again. So what I really like is that you can see here the difference between the burnished surface and the unburnished surface. That's how much better it looks if you can burnish it. So I'm finished doing that. I'm going to use the larger end. I'm pressing really pretty hard now. We're smashing down the tooth of the paper. It doesn't matter. This is our last layer. This is already done. And now this is looking very bare to me. I think this would lend itself to some perfs. I think this looks very much like a sea urchin. So I'm going to make some perfs. First I'm going to do an aura line here. That'll help make the perfs a little bit more manageable. You could put any number of tangles in here. Pretty scrolly ones. You could do even geometric ones like Knightsbridge would be pretty. But I just think since it looks kind of ocean-like, these pearls or bumps like you see on a starfish, I think that echoes that theme. So this is the underside of our ribbon, and I was going to just start color it in dark, but I think I'm just going to do some hatching at either end. You can flick towards yourself or pull, flick away from yourself or pull towards yourself. I personally prefer the pulling, but I don't want to make you dizzy, so I'm going to flick away from here. really dark in that corner here where the ribbon would bend, right? Always kind of step back and look at it. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and shade my little pearls with, not with graphite, because what we're using here is the brown pen, so I'm going to shade with this caput mortuum. You could take your colored pencil and fill that a little bit in, leaving that highlight. Caput mortuum goes perfectly, as you can see, with this brown Sakura Micron pencil or pen. Okay, so now I'm going to blend. This time I got to really make sure my blender is clean, 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 clean. It'll still look like it's got something on the tip, but it doesn't. That's just stained. Okay, so let's start here. Clean, clean, clean. I think this might look good with a little bit of a drop shadow in here. Blend that out so it doesn't look so stark. And then now what we can do also here is take our brown pen and play around. You could, for example, make a little dot and maybe some little dots towards each of those hats. And then I would like to take my Jelly Roll pen and add some really bright highlights. That's very subtle. And if you really feel like you need to, go back in and bring in some more line that you've covered up with your drawing. You can restate those. So before I sign off, I'd like to show you some other inspirations. I was practicing this since this is a brand new tangle for me. Here's what I started out with doing, was using those crescents or those pinwheel shapes to add the slide hat in, which I did from the center so that I'd have room to make the little hats. And then there was this big space, so I added little like crescent moon shapes in here. And then I added, of course, my white dots that I love. And then here is also a slide hat, really. Instead of having this area here, I made that into a slide hat. So that's one fun way to do this. And then, of course, the little gemstone in the middle. On this one, I see I need to clean this up. On this one, I did the same thing, but I didn't add the little white dots. I just wanted that to kind of recede into the background. And then here, I colored the space in dark back there, so it looks like it's got a dark background. Here I left it open and it's a little bit more airy and almost like floating. So those are some suggestions. And then I did this one really funky one that was just black and white, and I used slide hat in a ribbon-like way, and then I made some cross lines in between to fill in. So that's kind of interesting. Don't know if I like it yet or not, but anyway, I was having fun experimenting. So do enjoy playing with Slide Hat and Philoxy. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.